It is an honor for us to share our presentation about SDG goals. My name is Gao Siqi. The SDG goal we chose is climate action. First of all, let me introduce the climate change issue and how important that we should tackle this issue. Global climate change poses an existential threat to small islands due to rising sea levels, extreme weather events, and ecological disruptions. These vulnerabilities make addressing climate change critical for global sustainability and equity. This presentation will examine the specific challenges faced by small islands, focusing on Sierra Leone, analyze the root causes of these problems, highlight efforts to combat these issues, and reflect on key lessons learned. Small islands are highly vulnerable to climate change, primarily due to their geographic and economic characteristics, and there are variable key issues include. To begin with, small islands face significant risks of submersions, coastal erosion, and salinization of freshwater supplies. By 2050, rising sea levels could displace millions globally. Moreover, extreme weather events such as cyclones, floods, and droughts are becoming more frequent and intense, severely affecting infrastructures, ecosystems, and livelihoods. Last but not least, marine ecosystem damage is also a critical issue. Ocean warming and acidification threaten coral reefs, which serve as natural barriers and economic resources through fisheries and tourism. Addressing these challenges is essential for global equity as small islands contribute minimally to greenhouse gas emissions yet bear the brunt of its impacts. In Sierra Leone, many small islands are facing serious challenges. Despite its mainland geography, includes vulnerable coastal and island areas affected by climate change. The first key issue is severe flooding and erosion. Rising sea levels and unregulated sand mining have led to increased flooding and loss of land. Moreover, deforestation and marine pollution exacerbate ecosystem degradation, impacting both terrestrial and marine species. Additionally, climate-related disasters disrupt agriculture and fisheries, threatening food security and livelihoods. Moreover, climate change even poses a threat to the historical value. To better deal with these problems, we should research and analyze the root causes. Sea level rise is caused primarily by two factors related to global warming: the added water from melting ice sheets and glaciers, and the expansion of seawater as it warms. The first graph below tracks the change in global sea level since 1993, as observed by satellites. In addition, ice sheets melting is important because the ice sheets of Greenland and Antarctica store about two-thirds of all the fresh water on Earth. They are losing ice due to the ongoing warming of Earth's surface and ocean. Meltwater coming from these ice sheets is responsible for about one-third of the global average rise in sea level since 1993. Furthermore, 90% of ice sheets is occurring in the ocean, causing the water's internal heat to increase since modern record keeping began in 1955. Heat stored in the ocean causes its water to expand, which is responsible for one-third to one-half of global sea level rise. Most of the added energy is stored at the surface, at a depth of 0 to 700 meters. The last 10 years were the ocean's warmest decade since at last the 18th century. The year 2023 was the ocean's warmest recorded year. At Sierra Leone, several underlying factors amplify Sierra Leone's vulnerabilities. Firstly, poverty and lack of infrastructure, limited resources hinder adaptation measures such as seawalls or mangrove restoration. Secondly, rapid deforestation for agriculture and fuel contributes to soil erosion and reduce carbon sequestration. Thirdly, developed nations' historical erosions drive climate change, leaving countries like Sierra Leone to cope with the consequences without adequate financial or technical support. To be continued, my partner will represent more about actions on climate change.
Hello, my name is Xiong Jingxi. In order to tackle these issues, there are a great deal of actions and proposed solutions. The first one I'd like to share with you is for the government. As part of the UN's climate change framework, Sierra Leone has developed a national adaptation plan, which sets out the actions needed to reduce the impacts of climate change nationally. The second one is NGO. Policies are not enough, but there is a council over the implementation of these policies, according to the authorities. Executive Director of Environmental NGO Green Scenery. They should be translated into laws and the laws implemented, he says. Enforcement is the problem. The next one is for the communities. It includes the rising sea themselves by using homemade methods such as sandbags. But in the town of Benta, which has an estimated 10,000 inhabitants, a publicly funded sea wall up to 1.7 kilometers long is being constructed. And Benta's deputy mayor people explain, though it remains to be seen if the wall will be high enough to protect the town, even if the Paris Agreement target to limit global warming to 1.5 C is met. And the next one for the business, the project benefited from a US $9.9 million grant from the Global Environment Facility. The next one is for infrastructure construction. Seawalls are built parallel to the coastline in order to reduce flooding and protect against erosion and storm surge. There are also elevated roads and water pumps. The last one is global solution. By now, we know the pace of global emissions reductions determines how fast our seas rise. In order to avoid climate catastrophe and prepare for the effects we are already starting to experience, major polluting countries and companies must fulfill their promise to act. That includes reducing forestation and the burning of fossil fuels, investing in climate change solutions like clean energy and growing support for resources like green banks and the Green Climate Fund. Next. There are no problems that belong to Sierra Leone alone. Globally, sea levels are expected to rise between 0.6 and 1.3 meters by the end of the century unless greenhouse gas emissions are contained. Add to these the high levels of coastal degradation and rising seas could well have a much bigger impact here than elsewhere on people and economy alike. So there are some harvest and reflection for the energy. The prices of solar, wind, and batteries have plummeted in recent decades, increasingly undercutting the cost of fossil fuel alternatives. Further progress could allow us to provide cheap, clean energy for everyone. as for industry and transport. As we all know, before the Industrial Revolution, emissions were very low. Growth in emissions was still relatively slow until the mid-20th century. In 1950, the world emitted 6 billion tons of carbon dioxide. By 1990, this had almost quadrupled, reaching more than 20 billion tons. Emissions have continued to grow rapidly. We now emit over 35 billion tons each year. The next one is for business and finance. Coalition of Finance Ministers for Climate Action, Net Zero Asset Owner Alliance. For the resilience and adaptation, Coalition for Climate Resilient Investment, Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure. Next is nature-based solutions. Compare for nature and ocean risk and resilience action islands. The last one is urban planning. Leadership for urban climate investment. There are also some conclusions. Sarah Lonius changes reflect the broader plight of small islands in a changing climate. Addressing these issues requires a collective global effect, influencing equity, evolution, and resilience. By learning from both success and shortcomings, we can better support vulnerable communities and contribute to a sustainable future for all. Thanks for listening.